Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgson Powders, and JPL Precision.
Hi, welcome to Power Factor. I'm Larry, and as you know, we've been talking about this 40 cal open gun Glock that I'm going to be building. And again, at the time of this recording, I still don't have the gun yet, but I'm getting ideas, I'm designing things, I'm thinking about how I want it, and I'm getting little parts and pieces as we go. And I've got a new part to show off. Like I say, we'll kind of chronicle the build one little piece at a time, and this is some new equipment to show off. So one of the dominating features of the Open division, if you don't know, is the sighting system, which is the only division in USPSA currently that allows an optical sight. And there's a ton of different models on the market. Most open guns you'll see are running a frame-mounted optic, so the optic itself is stable while the sight is cycling underneath it. The most common sight out there is a Seymour, and as far as, I don't know, and it's kind of a large sight. It's physically large, but as far as other large sights, it's kind of, you know, there's not too many out there that are popular enough. But then these little miniature, what they call reflex sights, or just loosely referred to as red dots, are getting more and more popular. People are putting those on frame mounts. And in fact, I mean, an STI open gun I had in the past was set up just that way with a small frame mounted reflex sight. And there's tons of different brands out there. You know, Trijicon, Loophole, Vortex has got some new offerings, Burris, JP's got their J-Point. I don't know, I'm forgetting, I'm sure a few. There's a Doctor sight out there. I don't know if they're still making them. It's they've been out for quite a while. So I'm going to show off one I just picked up. And first I'll tell you kind of the criteria I was looking at. The number one criteria for me is going to be reliability. In the past, one of the most talked about things was how long does your sight last when you put it on the slide of a handgun. And I mean, I've seen some dismal numbers. I mean, there's some people reporting like 2,000 rounds and the sight was toast, and it was, you know, it didn't survive being on the slide. You know, and I don't know if they were, how rugged they were supposed to be. But now these days, especially with all these factory ready to go, optics ready pistols, the optics manufacturers seem to be making them quite a bit more rugged. So I'm hoping that the current crop of small miniature reflex sights are rugged enough. And I think, you know, part that was not reliable actually was the electronics portion of it. It seems like there was, you know, there's wires and there's batteries and things like that, and the battery connections break or the wires pull loose or something. I don't really know exactly what would fail on these things, but they had a high failure rate when you put them on the slide of the handgun. So my main concern about doing this was reliability, because I don't want to be spending, you know, upwards of $400-500 on some of these things. I don't want to be spending that like every year or more often on a sight that is not going to last. So that's just, I'm not doing that. That's no way. The other thing is that I really want a green dot, and I've got a 22 rifle with a little cheap scope on it, and it's kind of like a little aim point knockoff, but it's got different intensity settings for red and then intensity settings for green. So it's got a green option on there as well. And I've shown it off on the show before. It's been quite a while, but you know, shooting some steel challenge type matches, and where there's a 22 rifle division. And man, I love snapping that rifle up to my shoulder and seeing that green dot. And I've tried the red, and the open pistol I had in the past was a red dot because it's kind of all there was available. But when I got this green dot, I said, man, that is the ticket. I just love that thing. So for years now, I've been just kind of hoping somebody would produce a green dot. And so now they have. So I guess I'll show off what I purchased here. This is Trijicon, if you recognize that red triangle. And it is the RMR, which is their latest offering in the small little miniature reflex sight. The RMR stands for Ruggedized Miniature Reflex Sight. And we'll take it over to the bench and show you what this thing looks like. All right, so here's the unboxing of the Trijicon RMR. First of all, it comes in a really rugged case. I mean, you're not concerned about this sight when they ship it to you. It is well protected for shipping. So pop that sucker open, and there she is. That is the dual illuminated Trijicon RMR, and I'll go into what that means in just a second. So what you get with the package is the sight itself, and underneath this piece of foam we have the couple of mounting screws that are already pre-treated with a little bit of Loctite type material and an Allen wrench. And you've got just a product summary manual. This has all their whole product line. I mean, all their different scopes and everything else. Just kind of chuck that. I mean, that's what we have the internet for. The ubiquitous Trijicon sticker. I've probably got half a dozen of those at least from various things. The manual itself for the RMR, and then the warranty card. So, but decent little plastic case that'll keep all that stuff safe, especially in shipping. So, so this one's called the dual illuminated model. They make 3 different models, and the there's the regular RMR, which is battery powered, and it has a sensor that automatically brightens the scope based on the ambient lighting conditions. So if you're in a really bright light and your dot was really dim, you wouldn't be able to see it very well. So it has to make it brighter to compensate for all the bright background and everything else around you. So there's a little sensor kind of at the base of the lens on those models that sense how much light is coming at you, and it automatically brightens the dot. The other battery powered model actually is the same thing, but it's got a plus and a minus button on the side that you can manually adjust the intensity to exactly how you want it. So it's got both options. If you wanted to put it back to automatic mode, you just would push both buttons at the same time, and it goes back to automatic mode. If you want to manually increase the intensity, you can hit the plus or the minus to reduce it. But this one is not battery powered. Dual illuminated refers to the fact that there's 2 illumination sources. One is the obvious, what you see here wrapped around the top of the lens, and it is that is a fiber optic that gathers the ambient light, and then the other source is a tritium vial inside, just like your night sights. Trijicon, of course, they make night sights for handguns. So there's a little tritium vial in there that also illuminates what otherwise would be a diode, which is an electronic device, but there's no diode here, but where the light comes out of here. That's the second source of light. So it's supposed to be good in the dark, it's supposed to be good in the light. Okay, so yeah, so this is indeed the green dot that I was looking for. There's no other green dot on the market hardly that I can find. And as rugged as these things are supposed to be, I went ahead and pulled the trigger on one of these guys. The whole thing's made out of aluminum. It's forged aluminum and then machined down to these dimensions. The dot size is 9 MOA, which means it covers 9 inches at 100 yards, which kind of seems big, but you know, we don't shoot at 100 yards. We could shoot at 50 yards sometimes, which comes up every now and then. And so that dot's going to cover 4.5 inches of the target, which I think is fine. I think it's a good size. You can get too fine with some of these things. In fact, their manually adjustable model even has a 1 MOA option if you like that. If you're going for super precision, if you're a bullseye shooter, you'd probably want something like that. And then, you know, you could adjust it down so it's not so bright. You can see literally that tiny little X-ray you're shooting for. But this is, that 9 MOA size is really good for action shooting and fast action shooting. So I'm going to try to show you what the dot looks like. And I've got just got a little target here just for dry fire target just for a white background. So the one thing you'll notice is that this guy has a kind of a purple tint to the lens. And about the one and only review I found, where is it? There it is. I think you're seeing that there. Let's get it in the center of the lens here. So anyway, I'm trying to show you the purple tint at the same time as trying to find that dot, and it's really hard, but there it is. So there was like one review I found online on the Brian Enos forum, and there was a guy saying, yeah, I tried the dual illuminated one. It's nowhere near bright enough for what we do in the sport, and I really hate the purple lens tint. So I don't know, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I was a little bit unsure if I wanted to go for it or not based on that one single review. But like I think I mentioned in the past at my GSSF episode, I actually got to try this sight, this exact one. The range officer that was hosting that match had this exact sight machined down into his Glock 19, and I said, hey, which one is that? Hey, let me try it. So I went and tried it out, and I found it was okay. And walking around my house and stuff like that, looking at different things, I can see some of the limitations on this, which we'll talk about here in a sec. Okay, so here we've got a little flashlight focused directly onto that fiber optic. You can see just how bright that dot can get. When you're outdoors, it's much, much better than here in my dimly lit garage. So you can see the difference there when the light is removed. And in fact, when the light hits the target, even, it really washes out. You're not going to see it, but really gets bright when the sunlight is hitting that fiber optic sensor where it picks it up. Okay, so like I said, I don't have the gun yet that I'm going to mount this thing to, but here's how I've been kind of playing with it at my house. I just kind of taped it to the top, wrap tape all the way around the gun, a couple layers of electrical tape through the trigger guard, just to kind of hold it on there and just to kind of see what it felt like and what it looked like in different lighting conditions, and kind of see what it feels like to hold the gun, and see what that dot looks like, and see what that lens tint looks like, and if it really bothers me or not. So, you know, if you're not familiar, when you're shooting one of these dots on any weapon, handgun or rifle or shotgun, I suppose, you're focused on the target. You look at the target, you're looking at your target, you're looking right at the spot where you want to shoot at, and you bring the gun up, or you snap that rifle to your shoulder, whatever the case may be. And in this case, I mean, it's right now just barely higher than my rear sight, my regular iron sights would be. So I can come up here and hit that pretty easily. And you're looking right at my eye. I'm looking right at you with that green dot. So, you know, like I said, I just kind of strapped it on the gun like this, just to test different lighting conditions, because again, I'm kind of a little bit concerned about what the one guy said about whether it's bright enough or not. So when you're indoors with regular, just kind of, you know, regular indoor lighting, it is a bit dim, no doubt. And if you're looking at something that's in the light, that's completely washed out in the sun, i.e. pointing out the window of my backyard at the concrete wall, and it's dark inside and it's bright outside, it's hard to find that dot. It's really dim. And I can imagine in recoil, if the gun snaps up, it'd be hard to find it again quickly. But then took it out in my backyard and got in just kind of ambient sunlight, and boy, that thing was bright. Just like we showed you hitting it with the flashlight. It really is bright, and I think it's going to be fine. The purple lens tint doesn't bother me at all. I was looking at, right over my shoulder here, there's a USPSA target, and, you know, standard cardboard. When you're looking at that color and you're focused on the target, and you bring that gun up and the dot's just kind of hovering in space, you barely even notice the gun, you barely notice the sight. It's you're kind of looking right through everything, and that dot's just hovering in space as you're focused on that target. The lens tint, that purple lens tint, it's really faint. I don't think it's going to bother me at all. The only time it really shows up is if I'm looking at something white, which we do occasionally shoot at white stuff. Our steel poppers are traditionally painted white, and steel plates are traditionally painted white. They don't have to be, but that's typical. So that, you might notice it. I don't know. I'm hoping it's not going to be too distracting. But I think the reason for that lens tint is to help that green really stand out. One thing you notice if you look at it from this side, you see a green mirrored lens coating there. And just like my old Oakley sunglasses, which had that green mirrored tint, it's designed to block green from coming through, and that's why this appears to be purple. Basically, it's blocking the green light, all the other lights coming through, and that helps. I think that must help this green dot really pop and really show up. I think the yellow or the amber or whatever color probably has a different color lens tint to make it really stand out a little bit better and enhance its brightness on that site. So yeah, so this is kind of how I was checking it out, just kind of seeing what the site looked like in different lighting conditions, and I think I dig it. So let's see if we can show you guys again what it looks like. Okay, so we talked about various lighting conditions and whatnot, and I've got the camera, or I've got the scope here kind of strapped to the front of the camera so you can get an idea of the lens tint and the intensity of the dot. I know it's not totally perfectly lined up, but it's off to the side just a hair, but you can see that see the dot there, and I'm standing in the shadow, so this is intentional so that you can see it's a bit dim, kind of shining on the car there. So here's kind of, I'm standing in the dark and the car's in the dark as well. But if we look at something in the light, it is a bit dim. But now let's go and flip around, and I'll go stand in the sunshine and we'll see what happens there. So there, I got the sun coming at me from the side and from the top. You see that dot really gets bright. If we face into the sun, we can still see it. And looking back into the dark areas, whoops, while I'm still in the sun there, is pretty bright. And I think that the lens tint is not going to bother me whatsoever. See what you think. You can tell the stuff that's in the lens and not in the lens. So there's an example of what that dot looks like. Okay, so one other thing I didn't mention is the adjustability on sighting this thing in. It's click adjustable apparently. It says 1 click equals 1 MOA. So you can focus on that. And it's there's an adjustment on the right side, there's an adjustment on the top. 1 click, 1 MOA. So at, which is an inch at 100 yards, half an inch at 50 yards, and so on. So 2/10 of an inch at 20 yards. So now we're getting into the range where we're normally shooting at. So if you sight this thing in at 20 yards or even 25 yards, and you're shooting on paper that's got grid lines on it, you can see every 1/4 inch. If you're at 25 yards, if you want to move it a 1/4 inch, what you do is, and I don't know if every manufacturer holds to this same methodology or terminology, but when it says up, it says 1 click equals 1 MOA, and it says turn it up, turn it counterclockwise to move up. That is actually, you're moving the point of impact up. So if you first mount this up to the gun and you're sighting it in and your shots are low, then you need to turn it so it's up. Similarly on the other side, where it says turn it counterclockwise to move it right, you're moving your impacts to the right or to the left, so whatever the case may be. So when you look at that, that's what that means. So anyway, yeah, exciting for me. I've got yet another piece to my open gun, and I can't wait to actually get the pistol and get this thing mounted up. That's probably the next step. And then the other thing to talk about as far as components go is the compensator, which I'm still kind of working on. So maybe we might have another episode to talk about the barrel and the comp, and then we'll culminate this by actually building the thing. So that'll be cool. But anyway, let us know what you think. Let me know if you've got one of these and what you think of it. I'm interested in hearing your opinion and your experience on especially the dual illuminated version of this sight. And you can send your comments to us at our email address, powerfactorshow@gmail.com. Check out our website, powerfactorshow.com, facebook.com/powerfactorshow, and check out our sponsors, Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgdon Powder, and JPL Precision. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.